name is Brianna Good. I'm the Farm to School Coordinator here at the Indiana Department of Health, and I'm excited to share with you our Harvest of the Month and the Cafeteria webinar. We have two experts in the room who are going to share with us some of the things that they've done around Harvest of the Month in the cafeteria, the experiences that they've had, the successes that they've had, as well as some of the challenges. So I'm looking forward to hearing from them, and we will have a time for question and answer at the end. So we'll go ahead and get started. So here is our agenda. I will provide a Harvest of the Month introduction, as well as our presenters will share some of the things that they've done in their school districts. We'll have Dory from Fort Wayne Community Schools and Becky from Manchester Community Schools. And then we will have panel questions or discussion for them to be able to answer some questions that are frequently asked amongst the Harvest of the Month subject in the cafeteria. And then I will share our Harvest of the Month resources, and we will have time for Q&A at the end. So Harvest of the Month is a great opportunity to celebrate the local abundance, experiment with new foods and recipes, and get positive recognition within your school or district. The Indiana Harvest of the Month program showcases Indiana-grown foods for schools. Each month, participating schools focus on promoting one locally sourced item. So it could be winter squash for the month of January, and it could be tomatoes in the month of August. It can really change based on your school and your district and what's available. And they can serve those in a meal or a snack. They can offer taste test opportunities, educational lessons and activities. The list really can go on. It really depends on your school community. Indiana Harvest of the Month is a perfect way to launch or grow a farm to school program, as it provides an easy to follow framework and ready to use materials for the cafeteria and the classroom. So research shows that there's many benefits of Harvest of the Month. Harvest of the Month encourages our kids to try new foods and fruits and vegetables, increases the amount of fruits and vegetables that students eat, and it can also reduce food waste in the cafeteria and grow our school meal participation when the students are enjoying trying new products, and it also supports our Indiana farmers and local economy. So we have a few different benefits for why we do Harvest of the Month. So I am going to introduce to you our two experts in the room today. Dory Fowles is a current dietitian for Fort Wayne Community Schools. She has been in this position for over 20 years. Becky Landis is also a food service dietitian for Manchester Community Schools in Indiana. She's also been doing this role for 20 years. Becky's been in child nutrition and holds a level 4 certificate from the School Nutrition Association, and is pursuing a bachelor's degree in business administration and management. She's also involved in Farm to School here in Indiana. She's collaborated with the Indiana Department of Education, Indiana Grown for Schools Network, and various other stakeholders to procure and serve local foods in schools. So I can't wait to hear from them and how they have used Harvest of the Month in their school communities and cafeterias. So we'll start with Dory from Fort Wayne Community Schools.
All right. Can everyone hear me? All right, well, thank you for having me. This is exciting. I've never done this before, so we'll give it a shot. Farm to School, Fort Wayne Community Schools. We've had fun with this, so we can go to the next slide. It's been a long time coming. Several years ago, we did try, when Farm to School kind of just started coming around, or Farm to Table, and we tried different little things, and we had some limitations. Obviously, with our district being a large district, quantities needed was some conversation. How are we going to get what we need? Staffing, will our staff be able to handle it? Do we have enough staff to handle it? Food safety was a concern. How is it being grown? Where is it being grown? And getting it to us. Those were some concerns. Obviously, production, we have a central kitchen. We package our produce into smaller portions. So how is that going to work? And then distribution, getting it out to school. So, I mean, these were all limitations that we kind of hindered us, and we weren't exactly sure. But next slide. We came to find that it's the right thing to do. Giving these opportunities to students and giving them just these opportunities and just fun things to do is the right thing to do. Number one, you just really need to keep it simple. Don't try to eat the whole elephant. I mean, just take little ideas and make them happen. Build relationships and develop those partners. One really very important partner we have developed is with Northeast Indiana Local Food Network. I went to, actually about a year ago, spring break, over at Carroll High School. They had a little seminar. I went over and just started a very brief conversation with Janet Katz. She and I shared some ideas. She's very active with Northeast Indiana Local Food Network. Everybody knows her. And we just started talking. And with that, we came up with some ideas, built that relationship, and we got things going. Don't underestimate your team. People rise to the occasion and get things done. Okay, next slide. So one of the first things we did is we worked with Janet. She gave us some names, and Janet's down there taking the picture. And we worked with the Kurtz farm. I have to make sure I say the right Katz and Kurtz. When I was on the media, that was a double check that. Okay, anyway, 220 dozen ears of corn was delivered to our central location, and then we were able to deliver that out to each of our secondary schools. That we have a little more flexibility because we have kitchens at our secondary schools, so we were able to prepare it. If you go to the next slide, I have some pictures. Oh, I take that back. Relationships with farmers, again, with Kurtz Farm. Some of these materials came from the Farm to School branch of the Northeast Indiana Local Food Network. So it helps to build excitement. You know, you really want to let the students know who and where their food is coming from. I think that just really adds, because they know where they live and what is around them. So to see it actually coming to their table and to their school is fun. All right, now we can see pictures of production. So obviously staffing, managers were allowed to bring people in if necessary a little early. It was all hands on deck. And I did have staff members say at the end, you know what, it was work, but it was fun and we should do it more often. The corn we received was absolutely beautiful. The ears were totally, full. They were huge. So a lot of them we just had to cut in half, break in half. And it was a good time. A lot of some of our, okay, next slide, I'll show you. I have a quote. So anyway, cooking, again, keep it simple. We allowed them to cook it, boil it, or steam it, whatever worked best for them. I gave them different instructions, made it an easy recipe, just like kind of at home, just in a large quantity. So there are some pictures of us boiling it up. That was fun. It was hot because it was August, but they did it. All right, next one. Again, keep it simple. So the quote, "This is the most delicious corn I've ever eaten." You can see it's just pretty. It's on the line. Kids are excited. And we served it up and it was so good. Okay, go to the next slide. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I think this one is pretty much says it all. I did go around and talk to students in the cafeteria, and I couldn't help but take a picture of this one. So I think that's just funny. Now, I did have a few students tell me it was a little bit messy and it gets caught in my teeth, and some still have braces, but you work around that. Okay, next slide. We moved on, and we, within a month, we had the old farmhouse out of Pierceton, Indiana, bring us 650 pounds of winter squash, butternut, acorn, and buttercup, which is a new one for me. I've seen it, more of a decorative, but you can use it in, making squash. Again, we put up as much information about the farmers as we could because we wanted them to get full credit, and I think it's fun to promote that. Again, keeping it simple. I watched some videos. I Googled it so I could see how do you actually prepare it. I sent some of those videos out to our staff for them to peek at. If you go to the next slide, a lot of them, and with butternut squash, you have to peel it. but I thought that would be very cumbersome with 650 pounds of squash. So we went ahead and just cleaned it, cored it, got the seeds out. You can see some of the pictures, and they just baked it off, roasted it off. And again, a very simple recipe. I tried to give them as many pointers as possible. We did have a few conversations on the telephone, but some of them said they'd never done it, so the staff learned just as much. It was kind of fun that way too. If you go to the next slide. Bake, roast, cook it up. So you can see a few pictures coming out of the oven as we panned it up. You know, it presented well on the line. We did a little bit of a little sweet drizzle on it with a brown sugar. Try to see what you could do. I think you could do a savory option. So next year, next fall, we'll try a few different things, I'm hoping. You know, the next slide. Here's just some pictures of trays being made up. I liked being out there with the students and talking to them about it. Some of them you had a little, you know, twist their arms. Squash is a little more cumbersome than the corn, but we had some takers. So that was, you know, it's fun. It does strike up conversation, and kids will say the darndest things. Anyway, next slide. So again, it's the right thing to do. Keep it simple. Although we had limitations, we do now see that there's lots of opportunities, and we had success with them. As we move forward, we want to implement, you know, still small steps by introducing it into the fruit and veg. We have our fruit and veg snack program. We want to see if we can't get some local produce on that menu. Summer feeding coming up. We're going to go ahead and try to get some connections made with local farmers. And we just have to rethink our production, and our staff will step up and get it done. Opportunity for staff training. Again, some of them learn just as much with, especially the squash. There's lots of opportunity for student education, and there's just so many opportunities with farmers. I mean, way back when, it was just a couple people around who maybe could help us out, but now there's lots of opportunity with farmers who want to get involved, local farmers, and then just working with your community partners. I last year or 2 years ago, I guess more so, I was put on a couple committees, and I didn't even know a lot of the same people were on the committees. I didn't know which committees I was going to, and Zoom meetings, but there's a lot of people out there with a lot of passion to do this. So you just have to have those conversations, and it happens a lot. So I think that was it. I have, I guess, one more slide. So thank you. I hope you learned something new today. I think we have a lot of information to share, and I keep learning. I know that for sure, especially how to put a presentation together using Canva. That's where I got that. So anyway, thank you. And I guess we'll have questions later.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dory. We're going to move on to Becky Landis from Manchester Community Schools, and then we will have time for questions and answers at the end.
So, hello, everybody. Good afternoon. So I'm going to talk both about Harvest of the Month and Farm to School a little bit. So next slide, please. Taste tests. So we do some taste tests. Sometimes it's during lunch. I'll have something new that I want the kids to try. So we'll say, here, try this. Sometimes it's in the elementary level. Sometimes we take it to the classrooms. I've been to particular classrooms, and you can do this with Harvest of the Month. I'm going to be honest, our Harvest of the Month is still a little bit, I feel like, in fledgling stage. There's more I want to do with it, and expand on it, and I hope to do that. And partly I'm hoping to maybe see about doing the fresh fruit and vegetable program the next year. I'm going to apply. It's the first time for us to do that. We'll see. And when if we do that, then I'm hoping we can get some local foods, especially during Indiana seasons. I don't know much about it, so I can't really speak onto it. And if I'm saying something wrong, it's possible because, again, I don't know much about fresh fruit and vegetable, but gonna learn. I like to do focus groups. Sometimes it's a group of kids, and you really need to do a broad spectrum of kids, not just maybe your favorites, maybe not just the ones that always talk to you. I do have the opportunity to cashier in my school because we're a smaller school. We're at the complete opposite end of Dory and Fort Wayne, so you're going to have two different views here. And since I do cashier, it's nice to, I'm able to engage with the kids. And we had something for the second time ever yesterday for lunch. And it was kind of interesting because I know the kids and watching who takes what. And just to see some of the choices and some of the comments. There's something very satisfying about a student who maybe doesn't have the opportunities to be exposed to all these different foods, and we're able to provide that for them. Make it fun. It is a learning experience. Dory already spoke to that. I can speak to butternut squash. I had a learning experience with that, not really a lot of experience, and tried that one time. I'll do it differently. I peeled it, Dory. That was a mistake, even for a small school. I'll just say that. But the kids liked it, so it was sort of worth it. Make it fun. Themes, seasonal. We did Farmers Market Fridays in October this year, where every Friday we featured different types of local produce. We had partnered with another company who also, we purchased a special snack from them that featured farmers. And we have also done an Indiana Day at the high school, and you might think that sounds a little cheesy, but actually it went really good. And we I intentionally served only local foods because our bakery is even local. And I had the marketing class do a bulletin board for us where they showed where each one of the items that we pick up. It was a really cool map and had like a information piece on each one of our local people that we serve throughout the school year. Probably actually should do it again because kids forget, or you move on and have other kids, and showing where in Indiana each item came from. And not only that, we did Indiana music that featured the word Indiana. So thinking school and have to think of all the rules that go along with school and trying to find the songs that have Indiana. Some of them, again, were a little cheesy, but you know what? It was still a fun day. The kids thought it was fun, so make it fun. Next slide, please. And so this is one of my favorite slides. The staff were voting this up. This was going on our local burgers, or maybe even our artisan turkey sandwich. But it's so pretty, and we eat with our eyes. And think of all the crunchy. That was actually a crunchy lettuce, not just your not romaine, but just not shredded lettuce. It was a nice crunchy lettuce. You have a little bit of onion for a little flavor. And we intentionally put yellow and red tomatoes together. I didn't realize how eye-popping that would be. So when you do your harvest of the month, even if it's going to the classroom, think about what you're putting it in. Think about the bowls that you're putting in. What flavors are you putting with it? Are you giving them something to dip it in? Are you giving them a seasoning? What flavors maybe go together? Think about the textures. I know it's a lot of things, but we truly do eat with our eyes, and we like texture. We don't like everything mushy or, really crunchy. So we like a variation. Next slide, please. Definitely. This is COVID, and we have the picture actually on this slide is our salad bar. And the eggs are local. We purchased them through a distributor so that we cover all of our bases at this point. But they purchased them from an Indiana farm. And so anyways, start small. We didn't start here. We did start with a local day when I was a manager, before I was a director and just a high school manager. And it was the idea of the business manager at that time. And he bought ground beef, not realizing that we needed to patty it. Again, we're a small school, but 400 patties takes a long time. The buns needed to be sliced. He was into purchasing and getting the things together. And there was a few things that he had forgot about, but it was a learning experience. And a lot of people came and helped us that day. And so that just builds relationships. Be creative. Again, I spoke to that on the previous slide, but think about how you're presenting things, how you can make it fun for the kids, involve the students. If you need some ideas, they're always willing to talk about food because food's important to a kid. So ask them. They will give you an answer. definitely advertise. I think that has probably been the best thing that has come out of this. Let your stakeholders know, let your board know, let your people know. I know Dory, I saw a picture in the newspaper, which was an awesome thing. Let people know, because when the word gets out and you think it's difficult to get local food, it no longer becomes difficult. I now have lots of places that I can purchase food, because they start coming to you and say, how do I get into selling to the schools? And that moves on to advocacy. You know, spread the word, share your stories. I'm not a marketer. I'll just be honest. I don't have all the cool pictures that Dory does, because I'm the one that's peeling the squash instead of taking the pictures. I know I have staff to do that, but I'm in there helping them do it, wanting to make it a success. But still, spread the word, let people know what you're doing, how you're doing it, and help other people begin their farm to school or harvest of the month journey, either way. And next slide, please. So yeah, this is a picture of asparagus. I do asparagus every year, purchase Indiana asparagus intentionally. Is it cheap? No, it's not, but that's okay, because I want to do it at least once. Is a little extra work. Yeah, but it's not too bad. Even cleaning it, I help with it. That's why I don't always have pictures again. And this is just a little asparagus laid on a tray, brushed with a little oil, and sprinkled with just a little Parmesan, and just very lightly steamed so that it's still tender crunch. And the kids like it. And some kids say, oh, this is my favorite. I love asparagus. And others say it's funny looking green beans. We are lunchroom teachers. So we work in a school setting. I just think we should not forget that we're not just the cooks, or the food service director, or the manager. We have the opportunity to teach and reach the kids and expand their horizons when it comes to food. And by doing local as well. So, and we do purchase all that asparagus. If I didn't mention that, that is Indiana asparagus. And so I think we're going to have some panel questions here that we'll move on to that. And thank you for listening to what I have to say.
Wonderful. Thank you, Becky. We appreciate your continued efforts and your success stories. And like Becky said, we're going to be moving into panel discussion. So I have some questions for our two panelists or presenters today. And then we will also have time to open up the questions to the rest of the audience as well, to be able to ask questions. So my first question for both of you, and you guys can decide who goes first, is what recommendations do you have for a cafeteria manager or cafeteria school food service personnel who wants to incorporate locally grown food into their menu? What are just some maybe tips or tricks or recommendations that you have for someone who's really interested in doing that?
I would say, and I've said it throughout, is just to keep it simple and to build those relationships. There's so many opportunities within Fort Wayne with some of these groups. I mean, we have lots of opportunity.
I will echo.
Yeah.
Sorry. What Dory said. Keep it simple, especially at the beginning. Build on your skills as you go, but keep it simple.
Do you collaborate with others in your school or district or community to implement Harvest of the Month or highlighting local products throughout the school year, even if it doesn't relate to Harvest of the Month?
Like I said, Janet was great. I mean, she gave me a lot of information. And again, there's just the summit that we had, just going to that and putting some names to faces and sharing ideas and just seeing how much is out there was really eye-opening. I mean, we kind of muddle along doing our thing and we have a few ideas, but people are making this happen. So it's fun to see that. Yeah, so using those resources.
Yes, the answer for me is yes. Lots of people that we partner with. We use a broad spectrum. It depends on what we are trying to purchase, but sometimes it is an intentional purchasing from our broadline distributor or a produce vendor, something that maybe I can't purchase local, but intentionally purchasing local foods. Our ketchup, I intentionally go to get Red Gold because it's an Indiana product. And so, looking for those opportunities. Also, there's a lot of teachers. For me, they're probably one of my biggest contributors at this point of our farm to school career or harvest of the month, because getting them involved then helps me. They're the liaison between us and the student sometimes, and getting those teachers excited and happy helps to promote what we do and and partner with them. So I'm looking for ways to, actually the STEM and a tower garden that has happened in the last couple years, and just the collaboration, even if we don't ever actually see it in our cafeteria, at least the kids are getting exposed to it. Sorry, I'm really passionate. I can take too long to answer the questions.
You're just fine. I appreciate your responses. What growing pains have you navigated through when trying to either source local products or incorporate Harvest of the Month in the cafeteria?
Well, I mean, the first step is just kind of committing to the risk. There's going to be a risk, and you're just going to do it, make it happen. Small steps, but do it. I think one little growing pain I had was to determine actually how much. When you start, using that food buying guide, that is a whole nother language. Everybody's used that food buying guide. You do your calculations and you come up with a quantity, and then you look and you're like, really, 650 pounds of squash? How much is 650 pounds of squash? But then you send your email out to the farmer and they say, well, we kind of look at it differently. So let me tell you how you really want to look at it. So, it's just the funny things you learn. And then just the transportation, the delivering, the who's going to handle it, how are we going to get out there, the timing of it, just the basic fundamentals. But those are all part of it. And we made it. We did it. Can be done.
I think it's just a little bit like Doria said also, is that communication piece between us and farmers. We don't always speak the same language. And so, for us to learn, I think that's probably also one of mine, if I want, how many slices can I get out of a tomato? Because tomatoes don't come all the same size and all the same shape exactly. So what is that going to look like? And, if I can, 10 pounds of gigantic tomatoes and 10 pounds of small tomatoes, there's a difference in slices. So I need to know what I'm looking at and how do I translate into enough food. And again, back to the squash, that was probably my biggest learning experience. It's a lot of work. So next time I'll try Dory's idea and bake it off, because I think that sounds way better.
And I know we talked about growing pains, but I'm sure with those growing pains, you've seen success. So can you share maybe one of your biggest successes with highlighting local products in the cafeteria?
I would say the media coverage, the putting schools in kind of a different light, that it's not just school lunch. I think it gave a different perspective when we introduced some of these things. I think the whole idea is, a good thing for school lunch. Our schools put stuff up on their video feeds. We have Facebook and social media coverage, and it's positive, fun, pretty stuff. So I thought that was fun. And I think even not only the impact it had on students, but our staff, something different, something, we invested in it, and that's, I think, investing in them as well. So it's fun, I think, the impact it had on staff, and they enjoyed it.
I'd say one of the biggest successes, it's very nice to be able to have the farmer come to me, farmers, and be able to have a choice and be able to choose and have different products from always having to try to beat the bushes and try to find somebody who can provide those things. But I would like to attribute our high participation rate in our meals to good tasting, high quality food, which we get when we purchase local. It's real food.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I know that there are so many successes that you could probably share with us today that we just maybe don't have time for, but would love to be able to hear those eventually. And so thinking about the successes, what locally grown products, and this doesn't have to be an extensive list, but what are some of the local products that you have highlighted in the school meals?
Well, corn and squash. We also get some apples from a local orchard. We've been doing that for a few years. But again, because of our quantities, we haven't always had the best, game plan. But we are moving forward, and we're trying to put some, like I said, with the snack program, working with our secondary schools and just having the opportunity and getting some of these farmers now involved. I've had conversations with a few different ones, and I'm excited about things. I just sent an email about hoping to get asparagus into the secondary schools, mini peppers. I'm working with a farmer who's like, I'll research seeds. We'll see what we can do. So I think there's just, they want to do stuff. And I think that's really pretty fun. I guess that's like a success for sure. And yeah, there you go.
I've had some, in fact, I just had a recent conversation. So again, I cashier at the high school. That gives me a chance to interact with the students one-on-one as well. And one of our latest things is through the LFS program, if I'm saying that right, that we're able to get local greens. And I did some research on the farm that most of those seem to be coming from, and it's actually not about an hour and 20 minutes from where we're located. And I'd like to take a field trip there someday, hopefully. But I was sharing, and this hopefully will tell you about building relationships. So I'm sharing with teachers that I know the teachers that are interested, our science teachers, our STEM teachers, and the different teachers who are passionate about the same type of thing when they're engaging students in learning in the classroom setting. And so I shared with the teachers this really cool video from this farm. And that same day, a student comes to me and says, I hear that you're getting this lettuce, it's hydroponic, and proceeds to talk to me about hydroponics. And honestly, I don't know very much about hydroponics. I just know it includes water and not much dirt. And so, but that is a really cool chance. This is a high school student who I don't know what his career path will be outside of, or once he gets past high school, but it's a chance to build a conversation because now we have a little bit of a connection, and at a future time, we can build on that connection again, whether it's through food or something else, actually possibly could be. And probably one of the stories, again, I have a few of my favorite stories, so I apologize if you've heard them many times, is many years ago when we were doing a summer meal program, and one third grade student said to the teacher that was helping him with his salad that we made from locally purchased products, I just love salads. I don't get them at home. So to me, that's why we do this.
So thinking about students, how have the overall students responded to the local food, and how do you keep them engaged? I know you've talked about conversations. So what are some other ways that you've helped engage students in that cafeteria classroom?
The few times we did offer the local food, they are excited. They see other people there. They see people taking pictures. So it does have a fun and exciting point to it. But in engaging them, again, we always talk about getting student groups together, but to bring students together and talk about things that are local. And I think that's just a whole nother avenue of conversation with them. I know we've been talking a lot with our student athletes. They are concerned and they are inquisitive about eating and health, and it's a different, again, another different approach, but that's a way of engaging them and talking to them about opportunities in the cafeteria and the local good food that we offer. You know, we have opportunities for internships and bringing students actually into our kitchens and into our areas to talk about what we do. So I think there's a lot of opportunity of getting them engaged. Sometimes I talk a little too much and I can't remember what the question was. So that's why I kind of.
You answered it perfectly. It was perfect.
This might be a little bit of bribery, but you know, it's not too bad. Sometimes it's just getting them to try it, especially the littles, the younger children. So we had some little stickers, some try it, you know, Tuesday or whatever day for Harvest of the Month. We'd have our little special thing, and then if they would try it, they get a sticker. You know, eventually it's building back to building those relationships. It won't take stickers for them to try it, because they'll get used to trying new things. But at first, the little people are pretty hesitant to try some of that stuff because it comes in funny different colors and it looks different than what they're used to. And so they're just really not quite sure. So that's one way how we've engaged with our younger kids.
Wonderful. Do you ever have requests for some of those products that are that you've already highlighted before? Do any of the students request those products again or not request those products again?
Becky, you might have more of that since you are on site. You know, they do request things, but yeah, we did some, this isn't local, but we did some guacamole, a fresh guacamole. They've asked about that. So, I mean, they will ask if they want it.
I'm getting a lot of requests for sandwich toppings, which isn't going to be local right now, but it will be, you know, in the fall. That's what they remember. Right now, they are the tomatoes that look a little pink and not too great, but we use actually sandwich toppings as one of our sides for our sandwiches, and it's time, it's spring, you know, and they're ready for those kinds of things. They always look forward to asparagus when I put it on the menu. They know it's going to happen typically the end of April, the first part of May. I have some kids who think we do a sausage bread recipe at the high school only because it won't meet the nutritional standards it has too much sodium and all those for the younger students, unfortunately, because it is a pretty big slice. And some of the kids say, this is my favorite meal. And so, you know, over time, we see those kinds of responses, and it makes it worth it. Makes, you know, or you notice that's the day that our local burger day, that's the day we sell a lot of burgers that day, because there is a difference in the taste. So.
Definitely. Well, thank you for answering our panel questions. I would like to open it up to anyone else who has any additional questions that maybe weren't asked, or specific questions for either Dory or Becky.
I have two questions. This is Anna. My two questions are, the first one is, a lot of schools use cycle menus, and food service directors kind of tend to think that those cycle menus limit them from serving local products. Do you guys use cycle menus in your school? And if so, how do you incorporate those into the menus? Are you asking the farmers for their product, or are you going to the farmers and saying, what do you have available, and creating a menu around that? That's the first one.
We do use cycle menus. Oops, sorry. We do use cycle menus, but I had the opportunity to get corn. I put it on the secondary menu. I can make changes quicker with the secondary menus. That's our elementary. We're still working, seeing as we have to forecast, 6 to 8 weeks ahead for some of the quantities that we need. So, but again, cycle menus, but they change. And if I have opportunity, then I'll change it. We do a fresh fruit or we do a fresh veg option and fresh fruit option. So if something comes up and it's available, we'll get it to the schools and we'll get them put it on. Radishes, if we want to do any kind of cold vegetable, it goes into our mix. So we have some flexibility, but we would work it in. We wouldn't miss an opportunity.
So we do a modified sort of kind of cycle menu. I'm a menu person, so I like to do menus. Yeah, the same things show up every month, maybe not always on the exact same day. But if I have the opportunity to do snack peppers, it's really easy to swap out carrots. They're in the same vegetable subgroup. So, and you're not going to look at a lot of different nutritional differences in those two, not enough to sync a menu, so easy to do that. I did just have a conversation for our produce vendor. We're kind of making a transition here because our original produce vendor, local produce vendor, is out of the market now. So had a conversation saying, okay, this is about how many pounds of cucumbers or how many cucumbers I'm going to use, because I already know those numbers about how much each school will possibly use, how many times I will possibly menu them, because I don't have my menus done for in the fall and they're looking for fall numbers. This is how many slicing tomatoes we're going to need because I'm going to need them for sandwich toppings. And you can run down the list. After you've done it for a while, you just kind of know that this is possibly what I'm going to do. And that's what my fall menu is going to look like. Because of the seasonality of these products, I know that they'll be available. And if they're not available, I always have a plan B.
Gotcha. And quick second question is, do you receive any local products that you would store to use out of season? So like if you got all those pumpkins, would you consider roasting and freezing the pumpkins and making a soup out of them later, or salsa for tomatoes or anything like that?
We have not got to that. That's and space wise and yeah. We're just trying to do the fresh on the menu, but it would be great. So never say never. Small steps.
It's on my bucket list before I retire, which is in a few years. It's not next week or anything that exciting. I mean, because it does take a while to implement these things and to grow, because you need to just start simple. But yes, we have sliced up peppers and things to use in advance. And that was more pre-COVID actually, because now we serve everything we do. We don't have things left over, but I would like to explore that. Later on sometime in the near future.
Great questions, Anna. Thank you. We have time for additional questions, and feel free to drop them in the chat as well.
I have a question. Becky, you mentioned earlier that you're to the point now where farmers come to you asking how they can be involved, asking how they can sell to schools. So my question, I guess, is like, how did that happen and how long did that happen? Like, how long did it take to make that be reality where farmers come to you?
If I was to guess, it might have taken 10 years. It took a while, 5 to 10, probably closer to 10. We've been doing at least 15 years, maybe longer. And not only that, it's also about growing your network, because, sorry, Anna, if I don't mean to put you on the spot, but she just sent me an email of somebody who's looking to, sell something they want to get into the local market. And so if you are in the advocacy and you've been advertising and this is what you do, then the word gets out there. And I'm hoping that somehow in some way I can pass on some of those names to other people, because I'm a small school. This would be more for Dory, who needs a lot. There's only so much I can use. And also budget wise. Unfortunately, that enters into it.
Thank you so much, Becky.
Great question. We'll give it a couple more minutes for any other additional questions that come up. Feel free to come off mute or drop them in the chat.
I have a question. So when you guys were starting, are you picking up the produce from the farmers or are they delivering to you?
Many years ago, we had to drive out and get it, and that was somewhat cumbersome. But the last few times the farmers brought it to us in our, conversation, it was, can you bring it? But we only had it come to the one location, and then we took it out to the schools. We didn't expect them to go to all of our schools. So that was doable.
We haven't delivered our produce mostly, but we have pork donated to us from the county fair, and they will take it, the animals, to a processing facility, and then I go and pick it up, or somebody goes and picks it up, the processed meat. So it's a collaboration.
Great question. A few minutes here.
And if you're purchasing from, your broad line distributor, sorry about the bell, the broad line distributor, then obviously it just comes with the rest of your items.
I will also share at our last slide has Becky and Dory's contact information too. And you'll have their email so that you can email any questions that you might have, as well as my email. And I'm always happy to connect you with food service directors who may be able to answer some of those questions that you have. Okay. Last but not least, I just wanted to share that the Indiana Grown for Schools Network does have a Indiana Harvest of the Month database. And on this database, we offer a variety of digital materials to support Indiana Harvest of the Month at your school or your after school program, even at our early care and education facilities. There are quite a few resources for our food service directors. I know that Dory and Becky both talked about sharing where the food is coming from. And so we have editable flyers, newsletters, social media posts and captions that can be used to promote Harvest of the Month in your school community, as well as food service recipes that can be sent home to families. So there's quite a variety of resources that are available. And when I send out this slide at the end, you will be able to click on that website and it can take you to that database. And you could look under the food service option on that database and see what is available for each product. As I mentioned before, you can reach out to me with any questions that you might have, as well as Dory and Becky Landis. I'm so thankful for their time. I know how busy food service directors are, and just very thankful that they could take the time today to share a little bit about what they're doing and the amazing work that they are implementing in their school communities. So we will have another Harvest of the Month webinar that is really related to our classroom implementation as a part of this series, so that those who are working in the different parts of the school can see how really it can come together as one school community implementing Harvest of the Month. So thank you so much for joining us today. Like I said, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we will see you again soon.